Whew. Unknown number. Okay, so a few days ago, I got a deluge of requests and recommendations for me to watch a documentary new on Netflix by the name of Unknown Number, the High School Catfish. The story of a high school girl getting cyberbullied by an unknown number that keeps changing so she can't get rid of it until it escalates ultimately into an FBI investigated cyber stalking case. It's definitely situations like this that remind me about why truth is stranger than fiction, baby, because why do you like documentaries? And it's like, don't get me wrong, I love a scripted show, but there's something about the unadulterated, unrelenting psychopathy that is humanity sometimes. It is mind-boggling. And so, with the promise of a twist of sorts, I sat down to watch the documentary. And bitch, I got shit to say. I'm actually filming this right before I'm gonna sit down with my friend Olayemi for her Olay and Chill podcast, because I'm sure I'm gonna have a lot more to say after this. For some reason, in that moment, that was when my eyes start twitching and shit, and I was like, hand her,
I would have asked support for a non-traditional, like, listen, we don't even need jail time.
Can we stone?
And we beat this ass. Like, put a timer on. You could have a medical team nearby to rush her away. We could do it next to the hospital.
I'll link it if it's up by the time this is out. If not, Olay and Chill, I'm sure you can find it. But I have so much to say, and I have so many feelings and questions. I preface this by saying I'm deeply, deeply disturbed, as I imagine most people are after watching this, and hence why so many people are talking about it. But it's also like fascinating as a armchair psychologist. I'm not, by no means a mental health professional. I just like to watch psychology related stuff. So I like look at stuff like this, and I have so many thoughts and questions, and I need more therapists that I watch to make videos on it, cause damn. So sit back, relax. If you don't know the story, you're in for not a treat. Treat insinuates this is a good thing. This is bad. It sucks. It's really, really bad. If you already know the story, feel free to kiki with me down in the comment section, because I want to see y'all thoughts. What did y'all think? What were y'all thinking? Did y'all know who done it? Because I did, but I felt bad for knowing. But before we get started, look at my nails. I did my nails. And the roses keep falling off. Don't look too close or you'll realize that they're not great. This hand looks better. Tell me to play it! Actually, let's send it over to Admiral Kennie to pay some bills. Thank you. Hello everyone, this is Admiral Kennie, and today's video is sponsored by Magic Spoon. Magic Spoon makes high protein, no sugar cereals and treats that remind you of the cereal and treats that you would eat as a kid, just now with protein, less sugar, and only 4 to 5 net carbs per serving. Maybe you are trying to watch your sugar intake, maybe you're trying to watch your carb intake, maybe you're just trying to get more protein. This is a really easy way to do it first thing in the morning, if you so choose, or you can eat it by the handfuls like a gremlin, like I do. They have a wide array of flavors. I've tried 4. My personal favorite is the fruity. Tastes like a less aggressively sweet version of a different fruit flavored loop shaped cereal. It's a great way to get the day started. Quick, simple. It tastes great. It's also more satiating because of the protein, I'd imagine. And Magic Spoon is so confident that you're going to love it that you can try them out risk-free, get your money back if you don't like it for any reason. And if you click on my link down below, you can get $5 off your purchase at magicspoon.com/Kennie, or use the QR code floating around my noggin. That's $5 off your purchase at magicspoon.com/Kennie. Big thanks again to Magic Spoon for sponsoring today's video. Now let's get on to the debauchery. Did I remember to introduce myself? I don't think so. Hi, I'm Kendall. New around here, welcome. Not new around here, what is up, home skillet biscuit? I talk about stuff. Enjoy. Kiki, sit down. Get a drink. You're probably doing your laundry or washing dishes. Or if you got din, I got a little leftover farmer's omelet that I'm nomming on at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Vibes, just vibes. Okay, so our story, our true story, true crime, takes place in a little town in Michigan. I'm from Michigan, called Beale City, Michigan. And I knew it was some bullshit. 1, because we're watching a documentary, but 2, I've never heard of this city. Apparently, if you look it up, there's a population of like 12. They all know each other, all super small town. Everybody knows everybody's business. Everybody knows everybody's kids. Everybody knows where everybody went. That type of scenario, which sounds like hell on earth. But some people find it quaint. I find it dystopian. personally. And this story follows a teenage girl in 9th grade by the name of Lauren Licari. This would start in 2020, where she would start getting texts from an unknown number that were very, very abusive verbally. They would insult her body, her looks, and particularly would hone in on her relationship with her boyfriend, a boy by the name of Owen. The texts would say that he no longer liked her, that he was cheating on her, that he found somebody who was willing to engage with him sexually, and that's why he was no longer interested in her. Now, this obviously rattles her because it's like, who would write something like that? That's really f***ed up. But for the most part, after that first few texts, it kind of stops for give or take a year. So she kind of forgets about it. She would ask around to her friend group as well as Owen's friend group, like, hey, do you know who's done this? Do you know anybody that would have done this? It seems weird, but they weren't able to get any real information about it. And again, the text messages stopped. So she just kind of let it go. However, about 11 months after the first message was sent, they start up again. As they start up again, they get progressively more and more aggressive, sexual, hateful, and violent. And again, each of the text messages were definitely honing in on insecurities that Lauren may have, what she was wearing, what her body looks like, her being very thin, made her feel insecure off of those things, but also had it connected to a attraction to and a desire for Owen. So whoever was texting seemed to really want Owen, about how he's leaving her, how he doesn't want to be with her anymore, how he's interested in somebody else, particularly because they're willing to engage sexually with him. And the sexual text messages, well, the messages in general have this weird undercurrent of like, they're spelled horribly, but not in like a normal way in which people text to shorten things down. It's spelled horribly in a way that feels, this is my first thought, that felt like someone trying to be a kid, if that makes sense. You know, like when adults write teenagers in shows, they'll have them like talking in a way that I'm like, do teenagers talk like this? No teenager talks like that. And I'm like, okay, that's weird. The text messages start coming in more and more frequently. We're talking 30, 50 some odd text messages a day of just a deluge of progressively more explicit, sexual, hateful text messages. Again, can't block them because they keep changing numbers and using like a number generator. So there's a level of sophistication in doing something like that. They're like, we don't really know what to do. Lauren and Owen's parents come up to the school after finding out about this because the stalker was also texting Owen, and the parents would have a meeting with the principal and the superintendent kind of asking like, hey, what can we do? Because this is getting really out of hand. This is distracting them. They're supposed to be there at school and there's text messages coming in at school. Why do they have their phones? Like, what is going on? And again, these aren't just regular, like an aggressive text message here or there. There is an escalating fervor with which they are texting. It's getting more and more aggressive, more horny and vitriolic. And so they actually start to look into possible people who could be doing this. First off, they start to wonder if Lauren was sending it to herself or Owen was sending it to her. Well, no. They were not. They ruled that out pretty quickly. I think it's even annoying that that even came up, but okay. But I guess you can't rule anything out, but just making sure. They would start looking over the school security cameras to see if someone was sending messages around the time that Lauren was being texted, and they were never really able to pinpoint anyone who could be sending the messages because there's always so many plausible reasons someone would be on their phone at any given moment. You can't really say, were they texting someone else? Were they looking at a video on YouTube? There's so many reasons someone could be on their phone. Nothing seemed to really be coming out of it as we passed the year mark, but it did seem that Lauren's mom, Kendra, and Owen's mom, Jill, they were able to lean on each other for support because this was a really unique and weird situation to be in. Somewhere around the 13-month mark, Lauren and Owen kind of just call it quits because it seems to be the big thing that is causing all this harassment. So damn. Also, they were fighting a lot because they didn't know what they could believe and what they couldn't believe, and like whether or not there was some validity to these. So like maybe if they broke up, maybe they can come back together some other time along the way. One would think, considering the stalker, this bullier, seems to be obsessed with Owen, that would stop all the hatred going towards Lauren, but it did not. If anything, it got worse because now the text messages weren't just about Owen. Now it was getting more and more to like personal attacks on Lauren. Like, they were talking about her looks and stuff like that, but now it felt as though because Owen was out of the picture, they could hyper focus on her to the extent that it escalates until this cyberbully is telling her to game over herself. Like, it had gotten that bad. This is a 14, 15-year-old girl going through her first breakup, going to school. She's on the basketball team, like trying to do homework and shit. And now you have some stranger on your phone telling you to kill yourself. Like, damn, what the f? So finally, way too late in my opinion, they finally get the police involved because they're like, obviously we can't figure it out self-contained, so let's bring in Michigan police. A state police officer would come in like once or twice a week talking to the students, and I felt like this was a complete waste of time, and it was, mind you, because they're just asking students, did you do it? And they're like, no. And then they're like, okay. And they do that for months. Did you do it? No. Still? Okay. It would show, though, that whoever was sending these messages were stalking these kids. Lauren and her mom was actually a coach of the basketball team. They would sit down seeing if it was somebody on the basketball team because it was obviously someone that was around Lauren all the time. Eventually, they start to suggest that maybe it's Chloe, who is another girl on the basketball team. Lauren and Chloe didn't really get along. Chloe did have a crush on Owen, and she was friends with Owen, and she probably didn't really care for the boundaries that were set by their relationship, or at least that's what's suggested as possible motive for her to do this. But Chloe is like, I don't want to make fun of her because she was a minor at this point, but there is this point where she's like, well, her parents are kind of like, it's not her fault that she's a leader. I'm like, I think your daughter might be an asshole, but she's just not the asshole that we're looking for. Let me back up. Because she is a child, so I don't want it to seem like her, she's an asshole, like she's a baby. But apparently she didn't get along with a lot of the girls. There was some insinuation that maybe she wasn't the nicest. But eventually Chloe's like, I ain't do shit. If you want to see whether or not I did it, here's my phone. You can go through it. So they go through her phone, they dump her phone, they don't find anything. And then the stalker sends a text message like, haha, they took my phone and they didn't find anything, losers. And I'm like, all right, you want it to sound like Chloe, but I highly doubt Chloe, who has enough intelligence to use a random number generator, would not have as much intelligence to not say that it was her, essentially. She's like, yeah, it's me, by the way. It seemed like somebody was trying to frame Chloe. And being that she already wasn't the most liked person, it was easier to believe. As things go along, people are taking more and more like close proximity photos of Lauren's life, like taking pictures in the back of her car. That narrows down who could be that physically close to her. They also start looking into Owen's cousin, Adriana, who also goes to the same school and was also presumably bullied by Chloe. And she gets grilled by the police and she's like, I can't even be around them. I'm so traumatized by police that they absolutely grilled me and I had nothing to do with it. And it was really f***ed up. And things are getting worse. They've broken up, Owen and Lauren. Owen tries to date another girl, and whoever this stalker is finds out about that and starts contacting the new girlfriend's parents, and he breaks up with her because he don't want to get anybody else involved in this bullshit. And I feel so bad for him. I'm like, ooh, that's weird. You're a weirdo. Whoever this is a fucking weirdo. And I had suspicions, but we'll get to it. He's gotten to the point that he's saying back to the perpetrator, like, you make me feel suicidal, like I am at the brink of myself. And that did not stop the messages from coming at all. So after 2 years of bullshit going around, 2 kids about to kill themselves, the other kids are getting harassed and traumatized by police officers. All the rest of the kids are living in 1984 because they looking over the security cameras, making sure that whoever is doing this is caught. But they never thought maybe we should like get somebody who's like in cybersecurity or like, you know, has something to do with computers. Anyway, they finally get the FBI, a cybersecurity unit or a cybersecurity consultant type guy, to look into it. And he's able to find out that whoever has been messaging has been using a app called Pinger. That app allows you to change your number. So they subpoena Pinger to get information and find out that the numbers that were used to contact Lauren and Owen all lead back to one IP address. That IP address belonged to none other than Kendra Licari, aka Lauren's mom. The person sending the violent sexual, that bitch was talking about creaming, harassment towards these minors, one of which is her own daughter, was Kendra Lucari. Hasn't been a great few months for crazy white women named Kendra. And you know what's most f***ed up? I figured it was her. And I hate that I figured it was her because, speaking of Yemi, she made a video about the politics of ugliness and particularly ugly people as a protected class. And it really got me thinking. We live in a lookist society. I have lookist views that I'm trying to be mindful of because it's been brought to my attention. And I feel like this is not a good example because my knee-jerk thought when I saw her is that bitch funny looking. I bet she did it. And that's not right. That's not right. I'm saying, and you probably laughed at what I just said. Stop it. Stop. I'm trying. Tell the truth, shame the devil. My knee-jerk thought was, bitch look like Quasimodo. Bitch look like that shaking squirrel from Ice Age. I bet she did it. And that's not right. Well, it was right this time. But just because she's funny looking doesn't mean she's a criminal, is all I'm saying. It does today, but they're not the same thing. It's not because she's funny looking that she did it, but she is funny looking and she did it. Okay, there you go. I'm still working on it. Okay. I'm still working on my prejudices. See, and that's the other thing. When I say that, people think I'm joking. I'm so serious. I don't know how to say that in a way that doesn't sound like a bit. It's not a bit. I'm working on it. I'm mad that my suspicions were right, is what I'm getting at. But another thing that kind of leaned me towards her is because for a parent of a child in a documentary like this, she was shown suspiciously little. Like they showed a lot of Jill, Owen's mother, but they didn't show a lot of Kendra. And considering Lauren is the main person, you know, getting all this vitriol, one would think her mother would have something particular to say. So when they did show that it was her, I was like, ugh. Ah. Yeah. But she does make the most sense. Again, she's a very involved parent. She's a part of a lot of the events that are held at the school. She is a coach for the basketball team. I think she does something with the volleyball team as well. She has an IT background. What we will soon find is she's been off work for quite a while, so she would have the time to do these things. Now, with concrete evidence that this bitch had something to do with it, this bitch is it. She did do it. They have a warrant and they go to the Lucari house and say, hey, this is all coming back to you, ma'am. And her response is to do a vague denial at first, and then she denies that she sent the first one, which seems to be her story to this day, that she didn't send the first one, but she did send all of the heinous ones afterwards. The ones that come later are worse. I wouldn't claim those. If we gonna pick some to not claim, why the f did you say the ones that were comparatively light in comparison to the I'ma make it cream and go kill yourself, you slut bitch? I think I would claim the ones that are like, you're skinny. But eventually she does admit she's done this. She's done these things. My like layman understanding of psychology is like, whoa, what's going on there? Because there's so much to be said about how up that is, but also like what are the machinations that make a person do some shit like this and continually and like keep doing it to their own child. So I highly doubt what happened is she woke up one day and decided to be a crazy bitch. Highly unlikely. I think she's been a crazy bitch this entire time, and maybe it wasn't as obvious or wasn't as like upfront or destructive, but some tells me there's been problems this whole time. We just didn't know yet. But now it had gotten to such a degree that it was, you couldn't ignore it. It was this combustible engine of bullshit, loud and stinky. The moment it was confirmed, this is the person that did this, my mind went a million directions. I was like, okay, is it like an intense envy of the youth of her daughter? She's young and she has all this potential and she wants her daughter's life, maybe a childhood that she wasn't able to have, partially because she has this boyfriend and they have this very idyllic like relationship, you know, oh, young love, blah, blah, blah. And maybe she really wanted that. That's weird because that also insinuates some level of like arrested development. Like one would think at 35, 40 years old or whatever, she would get over that, but obviously not. And then there's the pedophilic aspect. Did she want to be with Owen sexually? And maybe that combined with her envy of her daughter. But then they broke up and she was still going at her daughter, but she was also trying to stop Owen from getting with other people. So like, what's going on there? And then there's like the Munchausen's, like the cyber Munchausen's, which is brought up in the documentary as well, but it was a thought of mine. It was like, does she cause harm to her daughter so that she can be the one that she goes to? Like, I'm so sorry, baby, we'll get through this. You're beautiful, don't worry. Even though you're the one like stabbing her to heal the wound so that you're the good mom that heals the wound, ignoring that you were stabbing her. My DSM-5 surface level understanding was going crazy. I was like, oh my God, what type of bullshit? There's also like a sadistic streak, right? There's a sadism. That's abuse, to abusing your child. There's so much. There's so much. I am shaking. And it doesn't stop there, because we also get the dash cam and like the body cam from the police when they go to talk to Kendra. And that is particularly harrowing because they confront Kendra. She's like, do we have to tell people? Will it get out? Because like, I don't know if my daughter can go back to school and stuff like that. And I'm like, bitch, why can't she? Why couldn't she? Whose fault is that? Oh, she's also interviewed in the documentary. She presents her side of the story in the documentary. She agrees to participate in a documentary that talks about her being abusive to her own daughter, which is its own level of like attention seeking. That is like a complete lack of self-preservation. Sorry, but she's like, will this get out? What about my child that I was abusing? Eventually, they tell Lauren that the person that's been doing this is your own mother. And poor girl, she's like just flat. She's like kind of disassociating, I'd imagine. But the thing that's so infuriating, that makes my blood boil at the sheer thought of it, is that upon finding out this information, Kendra goes up to Lauren and has the nerve to like hold her and touch her and pet her hair and be like, it'll be okay, baby, it'll be okay. Bitch, you're the one that's causing all the issues. When will you realize that your actions have consequences? They eventually tell Sean, who has also been interviewed throughout this. This is Lauren's father and Kendra's husband. He's called at work. They're like, hey, we figured out who's been doing this. And he's like, awesome. Okay. He comes home and he is told, it has been your wife. Your wife has been doing this for the last 2 years to your daughter. Around this point in the documentary, we also find out that there's other things that had been rocking their marriage to this point, mainly finances. They, over the course of 2 years, they had to move into 4 different homes. They'd been struggling a lot with financial issues. Kendra primarily took care of the finances and was saying that she was working at Fair State doing some type of job, but she would quit that job for some reason. Come to find out, she did not quit. She was fired. And then she had been lying to her husband that she had an online job, essentially, where she was working on something for a company in Texas, which was also a lie. There's also some suspicions that she may have committed insurance fraud to collect on some money for lightning hitting their home. So during this confrontation, Sean is finding out all of this stuff. He's finding out she does not have a job. She's been lying about a job. She's been lying about why they've had so many financial issues. She's been lying about looking for this culprit. And now he finds out that the person that has been causing his daughter so much emotional anguish, so much fear, so much uncertainty, so much anxiety was his own wife. And he said with the quickness, call your parents, they're gonna have to come get you. You can't stay here. And you need to leave while these police officers are still here, because I'm gonna do something to you if you don't leave. You need to get the out of here. You need to get the out of here. You need to go. She's crying, she's holding on. If I was him, I would have been like, unhand her. Unhand her, you abusive bitch. Unhand her before I hurt you. He a good one. He don't take no time. It's nothing. He's like, get out. Get the out. You lied to us. You put us in a financially unsafe position and lied to us about that. And now this bullshit you're bringing our daughter into the middle of is also your fault, bitch. Get out. And he right as ain't nothing to talk about. You was telling our daughter to go kill herself. go to hell. She's like, I can't leave the child that I emotionally and mentally abused over the last 2 years. I can't do it. Bitch, you gonna have to go. You going to jail. You may be asking, what is the rest of the documentary? Again, Kendra participates in the documentary, and what she does, basically the crux of her communication with us, the audience, is essentially minimizing what she did, chalking it up to trauma that she says she hasn't dealt with, and that's why it ended this way. She basically spends the rest of the documentary minimizing what she did, detaching herself from what she did, like very much so speaking of it as if it weren't something she did, and or excusing what she did. And it is so frustrating to listen to. It is truly mind-bogglingly frustrating to listen to her, because it just makes you go, bitch, what? And somehow tries to make herself sound sympathetic in the story of her saying heinous, abusive, vitriolic, angry, violent things to these children. And it doesn't escape me also, as like a layman psychologist, a non-psychologist, as someone who's fascinated by the human psychic, that it does come off as an act of self-hatred. Like her talking to her daughter, maybe because she reminds her of herself, and she has so much internal vitriol for herself, so much hatred, that to verbally abuse her daughter, who maybe looks like her, has similar body composition, things that she hates about herself, she sees in her daughter, and to abuse her feels like a level of self-flagellation. But also, f you, bitch. I mean, I understand that. I read a book here and there. Still f you, because there's something truly sadistic about not just sending one. One is bad enough. The bitch sent 40, 50 messages a day to her daughter. Have her daughter come home crying, sad, going to the police officer with the other parents, knowing that they're harassing these other kids, knowing that they didn't do that shit. And you're like, well, yeah, I just feel bad about myself. Girl, f you. I'm so tired of people hurting other people instead of taking ownership of their shit and going to therapy. She also blames it on like, well, you know, I was sexually assaulted when I was 17 and my daughter was getting closer to that age, and I got so scared for her and I didn't want terrible things to happen to her, so I decided to be the terrible thing that happened to her.
Well, I had trauma from my insecurities and being sexually assaulted. So I told my daughter, like when she was getting near that age, I was worried that she might get sexually assaulted. So instead, I would have preferred if she would have just killed herself, so we could have just avoided all that.
And also, she's because of me. Like, I had a control over it. So, you know, if she's gonna get abused, I'd rather it happen. Versus, even until the day of this interview, she's saying she didn't send the first few messages, so she won't take accountability for all of them for some reason. But she says what happened was I started texting after those first few to see, you know, if we could get some more information. Bitch think that everybody is as stupid as she is, and it pisses me off. Oh, I literally wrote those words down. She said it started off as a means to get some answers, and it just kept going, and I felt like a different person. Like, that wasn't me sending those text messages day in and day out and on and on and on and on. It was something else and somebody else, and I love my daughter that I'm abusing. I love her. I love her to pieces. They then asked her poignantly about the times that you said to your own daughter to go kill herself. And without remorse. Not that remorse would really make it much better, but it would insinuate some level of self-awareness that is pretty clear that she's lacking. But without remorse, she's like, well, I didn't expect her to do it. Like, if I weren't as close with my daughter and didn't like talk to her every day, you know, maybe that would have been a concern of mine. But no, it wasn't. She also had time to like Photoshop photos of Owen without her. Like, the bitch didn't have a job, so she was at home, had nothing else to do. So she was like, yeah, let me terrorize these kids. This realization that Kendra had been sending all these messages to her own daughter was the culmination of 10 plus years of lies that she had been telling her family about various things: her work, her unemployment, and probably an unknown many other things. And she's left so much carnage in her wake. She has abused her own daughter. Her husband now has to reckon with the realization that the mother of his child, his wife, was doing such heinous things, had been lying to him the entire time. They had to put a bunch of stuff in storage at one point, but they didn't have the money to cover it. So he lost everything that he worked for. She's shaken a bunch of kids who ended up getting harassed by police officers. Owen feels like he has to look over his shoulder all the fucking time. You feel like you can't trust people, all because even to this day, she doesn't fully take accountability for the things that she did. And instead, when people talk about the carnage that she created, she's able to respond because, again, she detaches herself from her own actions. She's like, that isn't who I am. People see this one part of me and they think that's everything I am. Well, bitch, it's a pretty telling thing to do. This ain't one mess up, bitch. You were sending 40, 50 messages a day for 2 years to your own child. Eventually, after giving her a whole, I was scared what would happen to her, even though I am what happened to her speech, they then talk about how she does get jail time. She pleads guilty, which, like, what the else, girl. She pleads guilty, gives a sob story about how she hadn't dealt with her, her trauma and how it came out and blah, 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 blah. The reason I'm saying blah, 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 blah is not because of an acknowledgement of trauma, is because it seems that the only time when she acknowledges her trauma is to detach herself from the things that she did / to get a lighter sentence. It's not to take accountability. At no point during any part of her interview does she really say, like, I f***ed up. I did a bad thing and I hurt a lot of people. Never. If she does say it, it's not in the final cut. If she acknowledges, like, I was in a dark place and I f***ed a lot of things up and I hurt a lot of people and I am embarrassed by that and I'm remorseful of it and I am working through my traumas so that I won't do this again, because that is what I did. Those are things that I did, and I have to make peace with that, and I have to acknowledge that. Otherwise, I may do it again. She don't say none of that shit. She's like, that was a really hard time for me, and like, I was so scared for her. So like, of course I did this thing that was awful, and I did it for reasons that made sense, and I'm just so sorry, and I love her so much. Girl, you. I'm telling you, man, this ain't doing a good thing for Kendra's, because she the same type of bitch as the other Kendra. White crazy women named Kendra aren't getting a good rep out here. She would serve, give or take, a year or two. I want to say like 19 months in prison for 2 counts of stalking for her own daughter and Owen. Is that a federal charge? I think so. I just thought about this. Why would this bitch not charged with sexually harassing minors? Why is she not on somebody's offender list? Was that a part of her plea, that she's not considered a sex offender? Because that is what she did. She went to that boy and started talking about how she gonna make it cream and broke up his second relationship. And she's over here and like, well, I had a really dark past. Fuck you. That's what everybody say on To Catch a Predator too. Oh, my life is in shambles, so I decided to sext a 14-year-old. You. But regardless, she's out now, hence why she's in the documentary. She's not allowed to see Lauren, I believe. If I'm not mistaken, Lauren just turned 18, so I assume that the rule's in there now that she's legally adult. I don't know how that works with if your stalker is your parent, like parental things, like what does that do? And then when she turns an adult, like what? Anyway, it's very confusing. But as you can imagine, Lauren, poor Lauren, is in like this very weird space where she's lived her entire life with this woman as her mother. She doesn't know another mother. And in one fell swoop, everything is turned on its head, and now she's expected to just turn off her love for her mother immediately. And I think that's just not how that works. And it saddens me, but she's gonna have to go through so much painful exploration of reconciling with the fact that your mother, the person you love, is your abuser. She's an abuser in a way that perhaps is even harder to reckon with because it wasn't physical and it wasn't being yelled at necessarily, as far as we know, like face to face. She was being abused with this proxy in between of an unknown number, of anonymity. And to come to find out that that person is your mother is like, it's rocking my world, and that's not my mother. You know what I mean? So imagine everything you know about this person is turned on its head, and she just wants to go back to when she didn't know this, and that she was just her mom, and that everything was better, and she wants to reconnect with her mother. And that's scary, because obviously her mother is not a safe person. You know, I hope and pray for her safety in that journey as she figures out how and if and to what degree she wants to engage with her mother. I feel like if you have this capacity, then you have capacity for other terrible ways of hurting people. Yeah, that's sadistic. There was a joy in her pain. There was a pleasure in her pain. I couldn't imagine seeing my daughter come into my house crying that someone sent her some vile, crazy shit, knowing that I sent them, and then not only continuing to do it, but to find a joy of her being able to come to me. You're not right, bitch. You unwell. Also kind of think they didn't need to have Lauren herself in the documentary. I kind of wish they wouldn't have, because this, I don't know, it just feels kind of invasive in a very particular way with her. I guess you could go and argue that none of the minors should have been in the documentary at that point, but I could argue that they didn't need to be there either, actually. I don't know. Something about that just feels like a step too far. And it puts her in the place where people are judging her and her reactions to things. And I don't think that's fair, considering she's the victim. Honestly, I could go on forever. I really could, because I have so much to say. But I'm like deeply disgusted by the events. I'm also disgusted that I was right. Again, I'm trying to work on it. But again, the first time I saw her, I was like, she funny looking. I said she funny looking, but her daughter looks like her, but isn't funny looking. I bet there's something there. She seems like a bitch that would be jealous of her daughter, and I was right. And I hate that. I hate being right in that way. But yeah, what did you think of Unknown Number? Did you see this twist coming? Put that down in the comment section. I'm curious what your thoughts are. I am going to decompress and degrossify myself because I feel icky. I feel icky after watching that, and I want to be free. So I'm gonna go watch Rotten Mango, more true crime or some shit. Anyway, if you like this video, feel free to like this video. Follow me on all my social media, Instagram, Bluesky, both of which are KennieJD. Again, subscribe to me. I'll see you guys next time. Bye. Peace.